Welcome to the realm of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Enjoy listening. Christopher Holmes had been appointed as the warden of the strict prison established in the Astrospace colony. Having spent years as a prison warden on Earth, Christopher accepted the offer when he heard about the substantial financial benefits and moved to Astra. However, adapting to life in space proved to be a challenge. He spent most of his time with the guards, trying to familiarize himself with his new reality. One day, while chatting with the guards, one of them suddenly exclaimed, "Have you seen the new girl? She thinks she's a zebra. Dresses like one, too. She must be crazy." Christopher raised an eyebrow in surprise. "What exactly is her crime?" he asked. The guard smirked. "Keeping animals or altering oneself to resemble an animal is strictly forbidden in our colony. If you do something like that, you'll face severe punishment." Christopher's curiosity piqued. He wanted to see this woman for himself. Without hesitation, he told the guards he intended to visit her. Together, they made their way to the cell where she was being held. As they walked through the cold corridors of the prison, Christopher's mind was filled with questions. Was she truly insane? Did she genuinely believe she was a zebra? Or was she simply someone different? When they reached the heavy metal door, one of the guards entered the security code, and with a loud creak, the door slid open. Christopher stepped inside and immediately noticed the woman sitting on the floor under the dim light. She wore black and white striped socks and an oversized t-shirt. Her long black hair had white streaks running through it, and atop her head sat a furry accessory resembling zebra ears. But what caught Christopher's attention most was not her clothing. It was the intricate, zebra-like patterns on her skin. It wasn't just an outfit. Her entire appearance was a deliberate transformation. Her large blue eyes were empty, staring off into space as if she hadn't even noticed Christopher's presence. Or perhaps she had, but she simply didn't care. Her striped tail rested motionless on the ground. Christopher paused. There was nothing threatening about her. If anything, she seemed lost, like a soul disconnected from the world around her. The guards had laughed at her, calling her crazy, but to Christopher, she seemed more like someone who didn't belong anywhere. Determined to understand her better, he ordered the guards to leave them alone. Once the door closed and silence filled the cell, Christopher took a few careful steps closer. The woman remained motionless, hugging her knees. What could she have possibly done to deserve such harsh punishment? Christopher couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't a criminal, she was just someone in need of help. Approaching her slowly, he crouched down to her level, trying to make a connection. She didn't look at him, but exhaled softly through her nose, acknowledging his presence in the smallest way. Christopher knew he had to be patient. Forcing a conversation wouldn't work. Speaking in a calm, gentle voice, he started talking to her. At first, she gave no response. But there was something in Christopher's voice, something firm, yet without judgment, that made her slightly lower her guard. A long silence passed before. Finally, she spoke in a quiet, hesitant voice. What she told him was far from what he expected. She explained that she had always felt a deep connection to zebras since childhood. She had never truly fit into human society, always feeling like an outsider. Becoming a zebra wasn't just a choice for her, it was an escape. The black and white patterns weren't just aesthetics. They symbolized the balance of chaos and order, a harmony she had never found in her human life. Christopher listened intently. Nothing about her words sounded crazy to him. In fact, he found her perspective fascinating. Why was she locked up in a prison for this? She wasn't a danger to anyone, she was just different. After a moment of thought, Christopher made a decision. He told her he would arrange for psychological help. She wouldn't have to stay in the prison for the time being. However, there was one condition: she would stay with him. He needed to see if he could trust her. If she broke the rules, the consequences would be severe. The woman hesitated. No one had ever shown her this level of understanding before. After a long pause, she gave a small nod. Christopher saw the uncertainty in her eyes, but he also noticed something else: hope. As he left the cell to speak with the prison authorities, the guards looked at him in disbelief. Some whispered that he was making a mistake, but Christopher ignored them. When he brought the woman whose name he learned was Zara to his home, he couldn't shake the strange feeling inside him. He had been certain she wasn't a criminal, but her uniqueness made her a target in Astra's rigid society. She needed real help. After some thought, Christopher contacted one of the colony's psychologists. Dr. Nissa was an alien psychologist specializing in the mental structures of non-human species. If anyone could understand someone like Zara, it was her. Nissa arrived a few hours later. She was tall, with emerald green skin and kind, intelligent eyes. Her presence alone was calming. Zara, however, was reluctant to engage. She sat in the corner, arms crossed, defensive. Nissa approached patiently, speaking in a gentle yet authoritative tone. She didn't judge Zara. She simply wanted to understand. At first, Zara resisted. She had been dismissed and misunderstood all her life. Why would this be any different? But Nissa continued, questioning what being a zebra truly meant to her. Little by little, Zara began to open up. Through their conversations, it became clear that her identity wasn't just an escape, it was also a way of expressing herself. But living in such a strict colony, she would have to find a balance. Eventually, Zara agreed to regular therapy sessions. After Nissa left, Christopher and Zara were alone again. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, Zara looked at Christopher, really looked at him for the first time. She thought about how he had given her a chance when no one else would. Christopher, too, felt something shift inside him. There was something mesmerizing about her world, something that pulled him in. The distance between them began to fade. At first, Zara hesitated, but Christopher's patience and kindness melted her defenses. That night, all rules and restrictions fell away. Zara's striped body found warmth in Christopher's arms. The loneliness they had both known for so long disappeared in each other's presence. The next morning, Christopher woke with a strange sense of peace. Zara was still beside him, breathing softly. But he had responsibilities. Quietly, he got up and left for work. Even at the prison, his mind remained on Zara, her scent, her touch, the words they had exchanged in the night. He struggled to focus, and his colleagues noticed something different about him. No one dared to ask. That evening, when he returned home, Zara was waiting at the door. The tension between them had shifted into something undeniable. That night, they surrendered to it once more. As days passed, Christopher found himself fully embracing life on Astra. And a large part of that was because of Zara. She made the colony feel like home. One day, he turned to her with his serious expression. "If I'm going to build a life here, I want to do it with you." Zara's eyes widened. She had never expected such words. But deep inside, she wanted the same thing. They decided to get married. At first, Zara was overwhelmed by the idea. She had spent so much of her life feeling like an outsider, rejected by society, that the thought of truly belonging to someone felt almost unreal. Could she really have a normal life? Could she, someone who had always seen herself as different, fit into the mold of marriage? Christopher sensed her hesitation and reached for her hand, his fingers gently tracing the black and white patterns on her skin. "We don't have to rush," he said softly, "but I want you to know that this isn't just about me trying to help you. This is about us. I want to be with you, not just for now, but for as long as you'll have me." Zara searched his face for any sign of doubt, but all she found was warmth and sincerity. Her heart, guarded for so long, softened. For the first time in her life, she felt truly safe. "Okay," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Let's do it." The process of arranging their marriage in Astra was surprisingly complex. The colony's strict regulations meant they had to go through several legal procedures, psychological evaluations, and compatibility tests. Christopher found it ridiculous. He had seen criminals get processed faster than their marriage paperwork, but he was willing to go through every hurdle for Zara. Zara, on the other hand, struggled with self-doubt. She still worried that she wasn't normal enough to be a wife. Christopher reassured her time and time again that he loved her for who she was, not for what society expected her to be. One evening, as they sat together in their small apartment, Zara voiced her fears. "What if I can't be what you need? What if I'll always be different?" Christopher smiled, tucking a stray strand of her striped hair behind her ear. "Then I'll love you exactly as you are. You don't need to change for me, Zara. You never did." That night, for the first time in a long time, Zara allowed herself to believe that happiness was possible. Their wedding was a small but intimate affair. Dr. Nissa attended, acting as both a friend and an officiant. A few of Christopher's colleagues came, some still skeptical about his decision, but ultimately supportive. Zara had no family present. She had long been estranged from them, but Christopher made sure she never felt alone. Instead of a traditional gown, Zara wore a dress that embraced her identity, a flowing garment with black and white patterns that mirrored her markings. Christopher had never seen her look more beautiful. When they exchanged vows, Zara's hands trembled, not with fear, but with emotion. "I never thought I'd find a place where I belonged," she said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "But with you, I don't need to run anymore. You are my home." Christopher squeezed her hands, his own voice thick with emotion. "And you are mine." When they sealed their vows with a kiss, Zara knew she had finally found her place in the universe. Marriage didn't magically erase Zara's struggles. She still had moments of doubt, times when she withdrew into herself, unsure of how to navigate a world that had never truly accepted her. But now, she wasn't facing it alone. Christopher continued his work at the prison, though he was now more vocal about pushing for reforms. Zara, with Nissa's guidance, started working with individuals who felt like outsiders, helping others the way she had once needed help herself. Their home became a sanctuary filled with laughter, quiet conversations, and the occasional playful chase when Zara felt particularly mischievous. Christopher found himself completely enamored with her quirks, the way she stretched lazily in the morning sun, the way she curled up against him at night, the way her blue eyes sparkled with mischief whenever she challenged him to a game of wits. Their love deepened with each passing day. Zara had once believed she was meant to be alone, but Christopher had proven her wrong. Years passed and Astor changed. The colony's laws became more accepting of individuality. Zara, once seen as an outcast, became a respected figure in the community. Christopher, too, grew into his role, not just as a warden, but as someone who truly understood the value of redemption and second chances. One evening, as they sat together under the artificial night sky of Astra, Christopher pulled Zara close and whispered, "Are you happy?" She leaned her head against his shoulder, a soft smile on her lips. "More than I ever thought possible." And with that, their story, once filled with loneliness and uncertainty, found its perfect ending. A life built on love, understanding, and the quiet certainty that no matter what they would always have each other.